Today's show is sponsored by Enclosed, the high-end designer lingerie subscription service. If you're looking for a gift for your partner, go to enclosedlingerie.com. That's spelled E-N-C-L-O-S-E-D, Enclosed. Lingerie, like the French spell it, like Paul Pogba himself spells it, .com. That's enclosedlingerie.com. And if you sign up for any multi-month gift, use the discount code TSS. That's TSS, $35 off any multi-month gift. And welcome to the Total Soccer Show. My name is Daryl Grove, and I'm joined by a man who knows to never leave Luis Suarez alone at the back post. His name is Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
Hello. I would pretty much never leave Luis Suarez anywhere open on the field, but yeah, certainly not at the back post.
That is correct.
Yeah.
All right, it's our Champions League review show. Obviously, we're going to follow what TNT did and what Univision Deportes did. Manchester United-Barcelona is our league game.
Sorry, I've got Gold Cup on the brain because I thought you said TNT, and I was like, Trinidad and Tobago are now in the Champions League? They're in trouble.
So during the Gold Cup, will TNT only broadcast Trinidad games?
Yes, that is correct.
we might talk Gold Cup later. The draw just happened as we were recording.
Yep.
I was about to say later in the show, we will also be talking Ajax versus Juventus. All right, you want to start at Old Trafford? Manchester United hosting Barcelona. Conceded an away goal, lost 1-0 at home.
Pretty much my worst fear, the way I thought this game might go. Yeah.
Oh, should we do the Taylor is a Man United fan full disclosure at the top of the show?
Yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, we can.
Yeah.
And it did feel like United set up to cause Barcelona problems. They threw some wrinkles in. That was very obvious from the way the lineups were presented as to what the TV or like at least the production studio thought United were going to do.
Yeah, it wasn't that 4-3-3, right? It was a 5-3-2.
It was. And then I saw a lot of variations after that of like, oh, never mind, it's a 4-3-1-2. Never mind, it's a 4-2-3-1. They were really trying to figure it out on the fly. I think I'll pat ourselves on the back and say kind of quickly, we're like, wait, this might be this and it could be that. The one wrinkle we didn't see is that it was like Dalot on the left. We didn't quite expect that to be the case. But that is how it went. Yeah, United in 3-5-2.
That's generous.
Yeah.
Also worth noting, Taylor is a Man United fan, but also very, very capable of being neutral. We're going to give some neutral analysis of this game. Right?
Ideally, yeah.
Okay, so before we get to the goal, because there is a lot to talk about in that goal, what was Manchester United's setup? And I'm actually going to start by arguing with you a little bit. You said Man United was set up to cause Barcelona problems. I think Man United was set up to try and negate Barcelona causing them problems and maybe just catch something on the break if we can.
I guess I should rephrase and say when I say cause problems, I mean frustrate. I think they were set up to sit back, be defensive, block options through the middle, not let Leo Messi and Luis Suarez find any quick combinations, and basically
say that Catalan should not be independent.
Yeah, exactly. That was obviously the big
Catalonia,
one.
Excuse me.
And I think that the idea was that maybe if Barcelona start to get frustrated, because I do think we expected Barcelona to be conservative, to not send numbers forward. I think they more or less did that, and yet still found a way to score.
I think a lot of people would not agree with you, having just watched it once, but we rewatched it, and they were very careful and smart about what they did.
Yeah. And so I think the goal for United was maybe to make them less careful, less smart, put too many numbers forward, and then very quickly hit them on the break. I think your idea that you spotted was that it was maybe like Lukaku like looking to hold up, knock it down, Rashford running off the ball, and they were trying to get those kind of fast breaks whenever they could.
And it nearly happened. In the 8th minute, there was a sort of Manchester United counter-attack where it's long-ish to Lukaku, and I think he just does a very nice like pectoral redirect to Paul Pogba, who then puts that beautiful defence-splitting through ball through for Rashford to run onto, but Ter Stegen's off his line too fast.
Yep.
I think that's the model for what United are going for. Let Barcelona come forward, hit them on a quick break. Right? That was Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's plan, and it nearly worked.
Yeah, you know what made it not work?
What's that?
Daryl Grove refusing to knock on wood.
I know, I'm sorry, yeah. So I said in the first few minutes, I think this Manchester United defensive plan is kind of working because Barca were trying to do those little 1-2s at the top of the box, which they're famous for and are obviously very good at when Messi, Suarez, sometimes Coutinho, and the midfielders start to combine. I think United did a really good job of passing people along, shutting people down, and being just a little bit aggressive. Wasn't there a moment early on where Messi did his lateral dribble across the top of the box, and first one defender and then McTominay kind of nudge him and kick him a little bit and tackle him, and eventually McTominay clears the ball.
Yeah.
So they were doing okay.
So there was, man, I'm trying to forget the X-Men villain who had this power. There's been characters like this throughout history and all different types of literature.
Because if it is, I know the answer.
It did not. No, but it's the character who when they lose, they then learn from it and they're regenerate and they come back learning what they learned from the last one, and they just keep going and going. Shiva, something like that. But I think that's kind of what Barcelona remind me of oh, this plan didn't work. Let's try this. Okay, this doesn't work. And but it's not even a plan. It's more so oh, this approach isn't working, and they just kind of keep probing and figuring it out and overloading one side. And Messi drifts here, but then Suarez goes over here, and eventually they start to find little areas of vulnerability. And it did feel that's why I wasn't really willing to go with you of oh, it's working, because there were still just these moments of no one's marking Leo Messi, and someone should probably pay attention to him. Why isn't anyone stepping to Ivan Rakitic? That doesn't seem good. And then eventually, Barcelona found a way through.
The correct analogy was the Borg.
Is that out there? But I think of that more so as an opponent that actively loses and dies and then regenerates but learns the lesson.
The Borg learns you can shoot at them once and it kills one of them, but the next one comes back and it's got a shield.
Okay.
Yeah. It's been a while, but that's definitely what happened.
All right.
Do you want to get to the goal? 'Cause I think the goal illustrates a lot of what we're talking about.
Sure.
Okay, so the goal comes in the 12th minute, maybe the 13th minute?
12th minute, yep.
12th minute. You are the master of minutes. And it involves almost everything we were just talking about. I don't know whether to work. Weirdly, I want to start from the middle, which is that everyone will know about the Leo Messi run. Do you remember we said United had been aggressive with him at the top of the box?
Yeah.
Luke Shaw was being aggressive with him and stepping to him, and Messi basically leveraged that into Messi doing a quick run in behind Luke Shaw as Luke Shaw stepped.
Exactly.
That's why he's on the end of that Busquets ball. He's the Borg.
And also because he's
Man.
basically gone near post as well. So now Luke Shaw, I think, thinking he was going to make this play, force Messi away from goal, force him at the very least to go outside, and instead the little feint and then turn from Messi. Now he's running goal side, and essentially I think Luke Shaw is panicking a little bit. Yes. United are scrambling, and I think as we've said many times on the show, once you're scrambling, you're not making sort of the academic, thought-out, calm decisions. You're sort of reacting in the moment.
Panic brain.
And I think if there's one team that thrives on that, aside from maybe Manchester City and maybe Liverpool, it's Barcelona. Those would be the three teams.
Because they can exploit you when you're sort of all over the place, Because then they're essentially Shaw should... Lindelof picks up Messi after he's made the run. He sort of takes himself away from goal to begin with. That's when Luke Shaw should have thought, oh, Luis Suarez has been left open. I should switch with Lindelof because he had Suarez and go and mark him at the back post. And he looks at him, right? Luke Shaw takes a look at Suarez, and I think he thinks he's got it cut out, but Suarez keeps moving.
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell if he thinks he's got it cut out or he just thinks there's no way Messi can play this ball. I mean, Messi, to his credit, spots it, I think, with his peripheral vision that Luis Suarez
He does look, right?
Yeah.
He has one quick look, scans everything, sees Luis Suarez.
And I think that's all he needs because I think they have that existing relationship of knowing, okay, if he's going here, I'm going here.
Yeah.
And they can kind of telegraph it that way. Or not telegraph it, but telepathically link up that way. And so I can't tell if it's Shaw maybe thinks oh, there's no way this ball is coming. Messi's going to have to, again, go back out wide or cut it back and play it back into the middle, or if it is just that he thinks he has Suarez covered, and Suarez then just drifts a little bit further to the back post, and that's the difference. But either way, he doesn't have Suarez covered.
Is it too much of a sort of my amateur soccer brain to be thinking that when Leo Messi's got the ball, all eyes are on him, and you just can't stop looking at him and worrying about him, and maybe that's what Luke Shaw's doing? Because that's what the rest of United's defenders are doing.
I mean, it's possible. I mean, I think, though, yes, I like to think that they're a little bit more professional than that they're not quite so oh, he's got the ball, I'm terrified. I think that probably happens with some opponents, maybe not here. But I do think that if you're Luke Shaw and suddenly you feel I should have maybe had him. I shouldn't have stepped that aggressively. But also, worth noting, it's Luke Shaw playing as a left centre back.
I was about to make that point. I just realised that one of the things we sort of felt good about for Manchester United at the start was that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer hadn't played Ashley Young as a right centre back. He'd at least learned that, put him back at right wing back. But as you were saying it, I just realised, Luke Shaw is the one out of position here, playing left centre-back and basically getting the centre-back things wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
As Ashley Young did against Wolverhampton.
And then I think to add insult to injury almost, that ball goes to the back post, Suarez gets the header. And for all the money in the world, I would have thought it's Suarez trying to put that header on frame.
Yeah.
You pointed this out, I think we watched it a bunch of times. I think he is trying to head it back across for Coutinho. I think he recognizes this angle is very harsh, and it is a sort of Barcelona trademark of pull him one way, pull him the other, pull him back, and then finish that ball. And so I think
him seasick.
Yeah, I think he's trying to head it across for Coutinho, and then Shaw gets sort of in the way, but I think is so scared about getting called for handball that he tries to adjust. Yeah. Hits off him, goes in the goal, own goal to Luke Shaw.
Oh, and weirdly, I feel like the victim here is Coutinho. He had such a rough time of it at Barcelona. We sort of rewatched this and tried to Hawkeye it, right? In terms of the tennis cricket thing. If it hadn't hit Luke Shaw, it was going into an easy goal. It was going into the path of Coutinho for an easy goal because Smalling's behind him. He was robbed by Luke Shaw.
He was. But I would say, like, this is an example. We talked about this on the Kickers podcast. We've talked about it in the past of, like, maybe a bigger issue not being on screen because you focus on the, like, really great run, the deceptive run from Leo Messi and the great ball to Luis Suarez and how people didn't pick him up and what happened when it crossed the line. Not to mention the fact that there's a weird offside flag in there for whatever reason.
Yeah, what was that linesman doing?
I think maybe just the angle he thought Luis Suarez had drifted offside just a little bit. Suarez is sort of, like, predatory in that way, so maybe he does do a quick step after the ball is played, but even then he's definitely onside.
Yeah.
But a much bigger issue that we spotted when we went back and watched is further up the field. It's what you alluded to in the beginning of the show. It's that United kind of have picked up Sergio Busquets, but I don't think it was what they were supposed to be doing.
Oh, it was Suarez I was talking about picking up.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah, but you're right.
Yeah.
I think the key to this goal, this is what you're driving at, right, is that Busquets is wide open to play that pass over the top for Leo Messi to run onto.
But he wasn't
you shouldn't leave Busquets wide open. And Romelu Lukaku had him. Romelu Lukaku was marking up, making sure to keep an eye on Busquets. And then he leaves him. But here's the thing. I don't think it's Lukaku's fault.
No, I mean, I thought when we watched this, I, like, pounded the desk because it looks for all the world like Lukaku is marking Busquets and then stops and just kind of starts talking to the bench and then fails to track Busquets after that point. And in reality, he does do that. But then what happens is he kind of points and is like, are you sure you want me to go there? Then he goes jogging off to the right-hand side, and that leaves Sergio Busquets wide open in the middle. And I think it's basically United's plan was to counterattack using the channels.
Yep.
So Lukaku's there in case that ball comes clear, but that leaves Sergio Busquets unmarked and has all the time to link up with Messi.
And the obvious question is, why would he do that? And why would the bench want him to do that? It's either Solskjaer or maybe you suggested maybe it's Mike Phelan because he tends to step out and talk more to the players. But it's instructions from the bench, right? What we have deduced, I think correctly, is that Alba was high on the left, right? Semedo was high on the right, which means it's just Piqué and Lenglet. Am I pronouncing that correctly? And that this is United's plan, right?
French is hard.
Their plan is to counter and get in behind. And as you alluded to at the top of the show, Barca had been a little cautious to begin with, right? They hadn't sent Alba forward. Didn't we see Alba jog back at one point to try and cover? This is a point where Barca had left themselves exposed. And I think, or we think, that the bench was saying, now's the chance, get in position ready to counter-attack. But when you give up marking Busquets, you're not even going to get the chance to counter-attack unless taking the kickoff is what you're after.
Yeah. And I also think this is also, like, a big problem with this is that this goal happens so early, because I do wonder if this is United sort of looking at themselves and what they're trying to do in relation to Barcelona. And so, oh no, we want you spread wide, so it pulls the fullbacks back. And they're sort of looking at how they're affecting Barcelona and not necessarily looking at the vulnerabilities that are existing, because we went back and watched, and even in the first couple minutes, yes, United has some chances, but it's also the case that Sergio Busquets keeps being wide open in the middle of the field.
He was sneaky, right?
He was.
Would sometimes drop between the centre-backs, and then he would slowly, literally sneak up the field and get involved and appear at the top of the play.
Exactly. And we saw, like, Lukaku start to sort of be like, should I go get him? You want me to? And he was hesitant. Sometimes he would, not all the way. This is the sequence when he does, and then he gets told not to do that.
Yeah.
But I think it's because United in that moment aren't thinking like, oh, okay, this is definitely a problem that Sergio Busquets keeps being wide open. I think because they're looking at their own shape and what they're doing, they're not focused on, oh, we have no way to actually close down Sergio Busquets in a way that causes him issues.
And it seems to me that Lukaku's instinct was correct to sort of abandon the counter-attack, be in the channel ready to go plan and stop the ball getting to Busquets was his idea. And he was overruled basically by the coaching staff. We're pretty sure about this, right?
Yes. I mean, it's the very telling one, because he does sort of, it's kind of comical because the camera fades away from him and then goes back to him, or like pans away, pans back. And when it pans back, he's sort of like staring at the bench in complete confusion, like, what are you talking about? And it makes him look not very good.
You've seen Sergio play before, right?
Exactly. But then it's the point as if to say, like, are you sure you want me to go there? Like, okay, like almost a shrug, and then he moves into that direction.
Yeah.
He's definitely being told, hey, get out of there.
All right, so here's the other, I think, interesting tactical question is Manchester United had three central midfielders, right? Pogba to the left, Fred, central midfield, and McTominay, right centre mid. Barcelona have three centre mids, right? Busquets, Rakitic, Artur. why aren't they able to match up without Lukaku coming back to help? I know the answer, but I think it's interesting to talk about.
I think it's because United wanted the back three secure, and then they wanted a little bit of a shield in front, and that little bit of a shield was Fred.
Yep.
And so Fred sat really consistently right in front of Chris Smalling, maybe 5 or 10 yards ahead of him.
On his toes almost, right?
But there wasn't, and it's not necessarily Fred's fault again. I think really what this comes down to is I think United got some stuff wrong, especially early in this game, and then they couldn't find their way back. But here I think Fred has been told, shield that back line, like basically put out fires wherever you can.
Yeah, he was scurrying around putting out fires,
And that can work if you're trying to go for this kind of frenetic defensive approach where everybody's pressing and everybody's stepping. But if you want everybody to be in certain positions, in certain spacing, to the extent that you tell Romelu Lukaku, no, you can't go 10 yards inside, stay 10 yards outside, then I think to have one person just kind of constantly shuttling around and kind of being all over the place, not only does that...
I can see the idea. He's like the disruptor, just like anything that happens around here, you take care of it. I feel like part of this is Solskjaer had a plan and it made sense on the board, but it didn't make sense. When it got to the field, you could see the shortcomings with it.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it's all Leo Messi, but I also think that doesn't take into account Lionel Messi, who is a player who, if you watch him, just watch the first 15 minutes of this game and look at how many times Lionel Messi is adjusting and seeing what everybody else is doing and making sure he's 2 yards away from this player.
He's a scanner, isn't he? He's looking around all the time.
Yeah, and sometimes that means he drops all the way into midfield and is next to Sergio Busquets. Sometimes he's all the way out on the right. Sometimes he's all the way out on the left. And he, I think, is a player who very much thrives on that type of a player running all over the place. Oh, okay, if I know Fred's going to go this way to try to cut off that pass, then I'm going to drop in and be wide open in the middle.
Yeah.
And so
you saw he did a similar thing to Shaw, right? He knows Shaw's going to step, so therefore I'm going to run in behind you.
Yeah. And I think you could even see it in the moments before the goal. Fred, Barcelona are able to play it from Busquets into, I think, Rakitic, who then turns and is wide open in the middle. And if you do a one Mississippi, then Fred comes sprinting into the screen because it's oh, okay, I guess I can go close that down. But I think as United sat deeper and deeper, they backed off more, and then there was more space in that kind of middle area for Barcelona to operate.
All right, so credit, I think, to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. After this wasn't working, United had a new plan, like at least a 1-0 down, let's try and get something back plan that was a little more aggressive. I would categorize it as, instead of just Rashford and Lukaku sitting there and blocking off space at the front, they went and pushed up on Barcelona a little bit, and Paul Pogba joined them and mostly cut out passes to Sergio Busquets, right? So it's a little late because the thing already happened, but it seemed like at least the plan was more pressure, and it's Rashford, Lukaku, and Pogba coming at you to stop you playing out from the back.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it did work. There were a few moments where you'd see Pogba sort of be like, oh, right, I got to go do that. And then he'd run over and try to do it. Yeah, but he did it. And that did limit Barcelona's ability to play right through the middle in the way that they had been very easily doing before that goal.
Or to slowly creep up on you, as they had in the first 15 minutes.
Yeah. So I think that was an effective change. But I think it also then has the double-edged sword aspect of it puts Pogba in a better position to do defensive work. I don't think it necessarily puts him in a better position to then help facilitate attacks.
Yeah, because he can't hit those, the pass that we talked about to Rashford, it comes from deep and wide, right? So once he's farther forward, there's a little less of that you can do.
Yeah, and so that's why I think if we had done, I'm very grateful we did not do a quick take, hot take of this game, because I think we both would have blamed Ashley Young partially for this goal, because we thought he kept the initial run of Lionel Messi on side.
I mean, to be fair, we're just learning from experience.
I mean, and also he was 2 yards deep.
We're drawing from history.
We are. But he was 2 yards deeper than the rest of the line. It's just a really well-timed run from Messi. So, but I think there was that. I think it also, I would have said that Pogba had a really bad game. This was a terrible game for him. I don't think he had a very good game, but I also don't think he was in a role where his job was to link up play and help establish possession and be patient on the ball. I think United were sort of in a almost Jose Mourinho, sit back, frustrate, counter, and then hopefully we score. Marcus Rashford's fast, Romelu Lukaku's really big. Something will probably happen. And it didn't feel like there was a lot.
It almost did.
That's the thing.
Again, that 8-minute chance is the best example, maybe.
But I think as the game goes on, you get all the crosses into the box when there's maybe one or two bodies in there, and it didn't feel like there was, for as much defensive planning as there appeared to be for this game, it didn't feel like there was nearly as much attacking planning, which you're playing Barcelona, I guess I get.
Here's what I think happened with the attack. I remember what you're talking about. There's loads of crosses coming in, but it's really like Lukaku and Rashford, or later Rashford and Martial. Not many Man United players in the box. I think that's Man United wanting to attack, having the opportunity to cross, but not being willing to commit too many numbers forward. Because if, say, PK clears, then you've got a Barcelona counter-attack to deal with, and you're all stretched out, and it's probably 2-0 or 3-0 and so on. So I think it was like a conservative approach to attacking.
Yeah.
Right?
And really,
and you sort of, you don't gamble, you don't get, right?
Yeah. That's well said from a man who doesn't like gambling.
Yeah.
But I would say that, this is sort of, if you wanted to look at, I'm not trying to be overly dramatic or harsh with this, but I feel like this is a good example of why fans in particular, prefer attacking soccer. And I'm not saying the United should have just gone out and been all out attacking, but I think if you are sort of in a let's plug all the holes, eventually you're going to run out of fingers, and then there's going to be problems. And I think if you're kind of game planning for, okay, if this happens, you go here, and if that happens, he goes there, eventually a very good team is going to be able to find those vulnerabilities.
Which is what Busquets and Messi and Suarez did. Yeah.
And I go back to like...
Coutinho was there too.
And again, he was too. Coutinho was also there. And so again, I go back to the quick take, hot take. I think after this game, again, more as a fan than as like an objective analyst, I felt very much
that show just happened in your own head for 10 minutes after the game?
A little bit. It was a little bit of me being like, this was not a good game, and they looked really bad, and maybe they do need to rebuild. But I think what I end up going with is the like Tom Colicchio Top Chef analogy, that the further you get in the competitions, the more it becomes about like, that needed an eighth of a teaspoon more of salt, and so you lose. Like, when you get to the point where everybody's very good, it becomes those little tiny nuances, those little tiny differences. They're the ones that make all the difference. And here, that one momentary switch off of Lukaku talking to the bench, that one little switch of Luke Shaw.
I wouldn't call it a switch off. I'd say the bench distracted Lukaku and gave him the wrong instructions.
Right, that's fair to say. And then, like, Luke Shaw...
I'm defending Lukaku here. I think he was doing the right thing and was told to go do something else.
You're absolutely right. Again, you're remembering me banging on the desk yelling at Lukaku. But yeah, so just those little teeny tiny moments, when they add up into like a consistent order, it can end in a goal, and I think that's what happened here.
All right, so let's play Wednesday evening.
May I say one more thing that I think we wanted to talk about, or at least I had in my notes? Worth noting, we were both very sure that United should have had a penalty in the first half.
Oh, yes.
Scott McTominay gets clipped by Gerard Piqué, goes down, but it happens... that happens, and then play is stopped for Lionel Messi, who's bleeding from the nose. And I think at the time we both wondered, like, is this like Lionel Messi's hurt, and so they're focused on that, and they're not so focused on going to VAR?
TV production-wise, well, maybe referees we got to trust are good enough to not be distracted by Leo Messi getting a whack on the nose. But the production, and I think like Twitter and everybody was more like focused on Messi getting smashed in the face. Well, actually scratched, right? It's actually Smalling's trailing arm. I think you should just clawed him a little bit.
Trim those nails, Christopher.
It's one way to deal with Leo Messi. Or don't.
maybe that was the plan.
Need him for the second leg.
If he filed them down, we know that was the plan.
Yeah, so it didn't get as much attention maybe as it deserved. I think this is a really good shout for a penalty.
I agree.
McTominay getting clipped by Gerard Piqué. My notes just say, McTominay, bad salesman.
Yep. I mean, yeah, and I think we talked about it off air that, like, this is one of those strange situations when it could have been a yellow card for diving and a penalty at the same time.
Yes.
Because Piqué definitely clips McTominay.
Yeah,
he
after
definitely
he cuts, right? It's a good cut, fools Piqué. Piqué goes for tackle, and because he's cut, he clips a foot.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's maybe just like the speed of the moment or McTominay being awkward. Maybe his feet are in the air. What it looks like to me is that there's a little bit of contact, and McTominay for a half second thinks, I can still get to the end of this ball and get a shot off, and then realizes he can't, and so he then falls to the ground by jumping off of his plant foot and not the foot that was clipped. So if you're the referee...
he goes the wrong way.
He does.
Right? The direction he falls or jumps or dives, I guess is the word, is the opposite direction to the way he'd been clipped.
I think he goes like vertical almost and then straight down, as opposed to like falling forward and tumbling the way you would if you'd been clipped. So I think there is contact, and if he had just gone down right away, maybe Luis Suarez would have gone down right away, and again it would have then been, he got clipped, it's a penalty, but because of just that little awkwardness, that little delay, and the fact that McTominay then kind of flails about, I think that's where the referee thinks maybe there was contact, but you definitely tried to sell that one, so no penalty for you.
I mean, I hope McTominay makes enough money from soccer, because he does not have a career in sales afterwards. Right?
I would say probably not.
He's not whoever Giovanni Ribisi played in Boiler Room.
Wow, that's a deep cut. You went that over Wolf of Wall Street. You went Boiler Room over Wolf of Wall Street.
Why not? Is it the same guy?
And also,
is it based on the same guy?
It's Vin Diesel's magnum opus. Thank you very much. That's just kidding. That's Fast and the Furious 5, I think. Anyway, more important things are what you were, I think, then going to transition us to, which is maybe like what happens next.
No, actually, I was going to ask. I was going to say let's play Wednesday evening.
Oh, sure.
Centre back, or whatever. I don't know the phrase. Obviously, we don't know
our version
more,
of Monday Morning Quarterback.
We don't know more than Solskjaer. But with the benefit of hindsight, if we're going to replay this game, like redo this game, knowing what we know now, what could United have done differently?
I mean, it is
because you've got to set up to defend Barcelona, shut it all down, and counter-attack, which is what Solskjaer did. But like you said, there was like an eighth of a teaspoon of salt missing. What is the eighth of a teaspoon of salt that we need to add?
And this is the luxury of being the Wednesday evening centre back, is that when it's you and me and I suggest a thing they could have done and you're like, well, couldn't this have happened? I'm like, yeah, maybe, but I still would have liked to try it. That's a luxury.
And we never have to test the hypothesis.
Exactly. We don't lose 6-0 because
yeah.
my idea was terrible. But one of the things I was wondering is, like, if you have Fred kind of drifting around and sort of putting out fires when he can,
like
if
a
he
freelance
spots them,
fireman.
does it then make sense to maybe make that a bit more specific and have him do what, say, Jose Mourinho did against Eden Hazard a few seasons ago and have Ander Herrera just man mark? Do you have Fred just stick to Lionel Messi the entire game? And I think that certainly has benefits, but I think then there's also the chance that you're maybe overly focused on Lionel Messi, and also Messi is smart enough to then be like, all right, I'm going to go stand out on the touchline now and take one of your central midfielders with me, and we will be able to score a goal as a result.
I think you can't sacrifice one central midfielder of 3 to mark Leo Messi because he'll drag you out and then you've only got 2 central midfielders. I think you'd have to go kind of defensive and go 5-4-1, sacrifice either Rashford or Lukaku, and then you can have one person follow Messi around and still have 3 central midfielders.
Yeah.
And then it's super defensive, right? Because your counters are really limited. But that might be the way to go.
And then maybe the other thing for me would be that, like, and we don't know the inner workings of the locker room, obviously, but he had Marcos Rojo and Phil Jones on the bench. So
play centre back to centre back.
Yeah, and it means that he either does not back them. It means he doesn't back them, basically, to do either what this job entailed tonight or to be able to maybe be the attacking threat that Luke Shaw was theoretically supposed to be if he was.
He scored.
Like, I feel like there's a chance that maybe later in the game he was meant to get forward. But I think this is where the sort of, like, experimentation of some coaches, it's honestly why we used to get frustrated with Jurgen Klinsmann, is because I'm sure United worked on this.
Anyone could play left centre back.
Yeah, but, like, if you just throw somebody in there and think, like, yeah, you're a left back, you're fast, you can do this. Like, I think what it ended up being was, when you made fun of me in the very beginning of the show for saying it was a 3-5-2, it's because it was very much a 5-3-2, maybe, but even like a 5-1-2-2 is better, maybe a better way of looking at it.
Yeah, because of Fred being deeper than Pogba and McTominay. Yeah.
And I think that caused problems because then, kind of routinely, you'd have 5 United players in a line and maybe 2, maybe 3 Barcelona players around there, but you then kept having more players drop into the midfield for Barcelona, and then they're unmarked. And so I think if maybe you had a center back in there, you drilled this a little bit more, and you had one of them dedicated, or even like the left or right, depending on the situation, drilled to step out if the situation requires it, or step with the other player when they drop in, then suddenly you still have a defensive shape, a good defensive line, but you have one player stepping into the midfield and sort of causing that chaos, but it's a little bit more calculated and less everybody scramble around and hope it works out.
All right, so just to take the focus away from Man United for a second, Barcelona did a very good job of, once they got that goal, they went back to the thing we talked about at the start where they didn't overcommit either. They were very clever about not sending everybody forward and letting Man United have that counter-attack in behind, right? And especially the last 10 minutes, last 20 minutes, they did a good job of... There probably weren't enough Barcelona fans at Old Trafford to Olé, but I think there probably would have been some Oléing because they just kept the ball, and almost the point of it was to keep the ball and not let Man United have it or counter-attack, right? It was a very good way to shut down a game. And get out of there with a 1-0 win and away goal, take that back to the Camp Nou, it's perfect for Barcelona.
Yeah, and I honestly think it was so...
They could even start Coutinho again and be fine.
Yeah.
I'll stop beating him now.
More on that in a moment. Because I will say, though, that, like, it was so demoralizing, I think, to Manchester United, the way Barcelona were able to just really effectively kill this game off, that I asked you, like, do they think 1-0 is a good result, Manchester United? Like, and I think there was maybe a time when they just thought, we're not going to get stretched and overexposed. Exactly. But it looked for all the world like Barcelona at times were the team that were chasing a little bit, and then they would move the ball back. But they had to have... I was terrified they were going to score at the end, not because I was worried United were going to go 2-0 down, but because I did not want to go back and watch how many passes were in that sequence that led to the goal. Because they completed like 50 passes in a row.
So we'd have been here late counting them.
Yep. Yeah. So I think that was, and it's a credit to Ernesto Valverde because, to your point about Felipe Coutinho, this is not the best Barcelona team that has existed in the last decade. This isn't like
Isn't it? We don't know yet.
I mean, I don't think so. I think it's a
Didn't they already won La Liga?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very good Barcelona team. I think it was a very bad season for Real Madrid. That didn't help them. And so I think, though, that like this is a credit to Ernesto Valverde, and I think it's a credit to their key performers who showed up tonight and did what they needed to do. In the early minutes, it's Gerard Piqué kind of beating Marcus Rashford in a foot race. Now, I don't think he would have if they'd had 5 more yards, but I think he got positioning right and did everything he needed to do, didn't make any stupid fouls. And I think it's sort of moments like that that I think were so like crystallizing to me as to why Barcelona are so good and why Valverde is a really good coach.
All right. The second leg is next week. I'm going to guess it's next Tuesday because they normally flip-flop the days, right? Do Man United have to go to Camp Nou and just go at it? Or is it going to be another weird counter-attacky plan and hope we get one, which is kind of what they did to PSG, right?
I think it's probably that. I think that's probably what they'll do. I think they're going to run into more difficulties because I think Barcelona will. My guess is be a little bit more attacking, but not much more attacking. I think they're fully aware.
Right. They're already a goal ahead.
Yeah, and I think as soon as Barcelona... So I would expect a similar start where Barcelona are maybe a little bit more contained. They're not quite spreading the field. They're not quite stretching the field. And then maybe United have to go for it. Then Barcelona get that goal. And then it's a big problem for Manchester United.
Oh, but we'll watch anyway, right?
We will.
Because you never know.
Yeah,
you
we don't.
Never know.
I do look forward to Manchester United maybe struggling this weekend because they have such limited turnaround time and maybe they're going to rest some players for the second leg. Then maybe being eliminated by Barcelona. Maybe they don't get a great result this weekend. And then you get all the think pieces about should they have hired Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Because those are coming. I have a feeling those are coming.
Well, one person I would like to see write that is Carl Anka.
That would work for me.
For The Athletic. I really do enjoy his writing. I'm not a Man United fan, but I'll read his stuff about The Athletic. You'll never guess who's sponsoring today's show.
Is it The Athletic?
It's The Athletic.
Well, it would be weird if it was just Carl Anka.
Yeah, Carl Anka's bought space all on his own. He wants us to talk about wrestling.
Yeah.
He wants us to do a WrestleMania.
He probably does. That sounds about right.
Today's show is sponsored by The Athletic. If you don't know about The Athletic, where have you been? They have changed sports publishing. You might have thought like sports media and sports news was dying. The Athletic is the new model, right? It's a subscription model. All the best writers are going there. All the best content is there. Our good friend George Qureshi is editing the Athletic soccer section, and he's doing a great job because there's some good stuff up there.
Yeah, he is ruthless in terms of like he is getting some incredibly good people on there, and really suddenly that Athletic is the Athletic is turning into for soccer at least because that's the one that we read the most. It suddenly is like everybody I would want to read is in one location. It's doing a good job of funneling my attention.
I think that's kind of the business plan, but it's a really enjoyable business plan to watch happen if you have a subscription because then you have access to all those writers. Yeah. There's one story that we both read, I think. Yeah, we both read that relates to this Barcelona Man United game. It's by Kevin Williams. He's their Barcelona writer. And it was all about Samuel Umtiti. Yep. Do you remember Samuel Umtiti?
I do.
World Cup winning centre-back.
Because I read this article.
On the bench for Barcelona in this Man United game, Lenglet started ahead of him. And I remember, because I haven't watched a lot of Barcelona lately, I was kind of surprised by that because I think of Umtiti as he's this, superior defender who could possibly be replacing him. Kevin Williams has a pretty long feature about exactly why that's happened. Right? Do we want to give away what happened?
I mean, no, but I think we don't want to give away too much, but I very much appreciate how Kevin connected the idea of there being questions about like Umtiti's dedication to Barcelona and how...
Because of his choice of when to have surgery and was it more beneficial to Barcelona or to France?
Yeah, and not necessarily like dispelling rumors when they kind of popped up in the headlines in the newspapers, that I think how much those sort of little decisions, once you run into other obstacles, can then suddenly be these
like Lenglet's good form.
Compounding issues that lead to Umtiti starting on the bench in a Champions League quarterfinal.
There you go. And actually, I got a good sense. Like Kevin doesn't mention this, but I got a good sense from reading it of the pressure cooker that is Barcelona. Yeah. And can you imagine, all those daily sports newspapers that get published in Spain? There's just constant little stories about players doing this or that or this. It's like a cauldron, right? There's constantly something bubbling away.
Exactly, but that's why, honestly, this is why one of the main reasons why I really appreciate The Athletic is because, say when we started doing those sort of like league catch-up shows where I was like, what's been happening in the Bundesliga? What's been happening in Serie A? It's a great place to go to sort of get those capsulized like summations of what's going on without it being like, here are the 10 things you missed in La Liga this week. There's not a lot of listicles. There's not a lot of bullet points.
There's the Premier League panic rankings, but they are a special thing unto themselves.
Indeed.
Shout out to Snaves.
But so instead you get things like this, which aren't just like Samuel Umtiti wasn't like starting again and we'll see what happens with their next game. It's a much more nuanced, appreciated understanding of what's going on.
There we go.
And that way you come away actually understanding the issue, or at least understanding Kevin Williams' perspective on the issue, as opposed to just being like, yeah, it's weird he's not playing still. Similarly, if you want to get a good perspective on, say, the NWSL, which is starting up very soon, Meg Linehan, newly joined to The Athletic?
Yes. New signing.
Yes.
She's a new signing. Let's put it that way.
I think we're making it the Borg again. That's what it is.
She's been assimilated.
The Athletic are the Borg of soccer writing. There we go.
So Meg Linehan, it's part of like The Athletic, I think, is what I can see, doubling down on women's soccer with the Women's World Cup coming. Meg is an expert in NWSL. I think she was on their media staff, right, for a couple of years. Expert on the Women's World Cup. She's published it wasn't called Why I Joined The Athletic, but it was essentially Why I Joined The Athletic. Yeah. And then her first story was published, I think, today.
Yep.
We both read it, and it was essentially, here's the state of the NWSL. And without giving too much away, 2019 is big for the NWSL because it's the Women's World Cup, and that's always an opportunity for the NWSL to sort of, take advantage, get more attention on them, get more eyes on them, and gain new fans. And it's essentially a feature about here are the things they could do to take advantage in 2019, but with no guarantees that they will do that. Just a list of problems and opportunities.
And I may,
Fair?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I may be alone in like the way I approach this, but the way I see like the state of the league is I fully expected it to be here's what each team is doing, and here are the expectations for the season for each team.
Yeah.
And I didn't quite expect it to be what it was, but what I ended up very much appreciating, which is actually the state of the league.
Yeah, from an expert.
Yeah, here's what's happening with the TV deal. Here's what's happening with streaming rights. Here's how they're going about getting sponsorships. Here's what certain teams are doing to sort of expand their brand or expand their stability. And I really liked that approach to it, as opposed to just sort of they're kicking off this week. They've added this player. Mallory Pugh's there. She's good. Tune in.
I would also say this is the first thing I've ever consciously or knowingly read by Meg.
Yeah.
Like, I may have read some India Vassell stuff that was by her. I kind of liked a few turns of phrase.
Yep.
She referred to, the Lifetime TV deal that was abandoned 2/3 of the way through, India Vassell. She referred to it as a conscious uncoupling.
She sure did.
That made me think, I will read more Meg Linehan stuff.
She also used, to keep it somewhat vague, a Mango sponsorship as a way to show the progression of the league. So I think that was great too. So if you want to check out Meg or Kevin's writing or anyone else's
They
writing,
have more than 2 writers. They have many, many, many writers.
I would say they definitely have more than 2
and
writers.
I think, from what I understand, there seems to be more writers about to sign up for The Athletic. They're going on a spending spree.
You announcing something?
Galacticos. I mean, I'm already technically on the roster. Right?
There we go.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm just on the disabled list right now.
Also checks out. Yeah, so if you want to see all of the daily content from The Athletic from all of these different writers that we know and enjoy and love, you can do so. And you can do so thanks to The Athletic and, us talking about it at a discounted rate than you might otherwise be able to get.
Heavily discounted. 40% off an annual subscription if you go to theathletic.com/TSS April. That's literally the 3 letters TSS. April. All one word, like all mushed together.
You got it?
All lowercase.
Yes.
All mushed together, all lowercase. Remember that.
Daryl not usually a stickler for the uppercase, lowercase, all together or not together, but in this case it does matter. It is case sensitive.
Yeah, you don't want a 404.
There we go.
Right.
You don't want a 404. You want 40% off.
And link will be in the show notes.
So thank you to The Athletic for sponsoring today's episode. Thank you to this episode for being done talking about Manchester United. Let's move on to talking about Ajax and Juventus.
Let's do it. But full disclaimer, because we were very focused on the Man United-Barcelona game, we did not watch the entirety of Ajax-Juventus. In fact, casually we had it on, but really we only watched 2 minutes.
Yeah.
But they were the 2 most important minutes. The final minute of the first half and the first minute of the second half, and that's where the goals were at.
That is correct. So should we go chronologically, I'm guessing? Let's go to the end of the first half.
Yeah,
and let's talk.
Ajax won, Juve won.
But let's talk Cristiano Ronaldo's opening goal for Juventus. And it was a very pretty goal, I'm going to say.
Yeah.
But there was maybe lots to break down on this one because more so than just a great run and great header, there's lots of little individual moments that stood out to us.
So it's Ronaldo himself that finishes it, but there's a lot of his teammates doing very, very good work in the build-up. And I want to start with my man, Bentancur.
Okay.
Bentancur receives the ball in midfield, and with just a couple of touches, he out Frankie de Jong's Frankie de Jong.
Yeah.
He kind of does, right? He accelerates. With a couple of touches, he gets around de Jong and Schöne, both of Ajax's defensive midfielders, and he is away.
And without watching the entire half, so, grain of salt here, this felt a little bit like Ajax had just had a throw-in that got a little clever, then they basically turned the ball over, Juventus throw-in, and the way they're positioned, it felt like, it's near the end of the half, we'll just kind of sit back, we'll be okay.
Yeah.
And that's why when Juve take this throw, I do think there's an immediate awareness from Ajax of there are numbers in places there should not be numbers, and so de Jong is trying to close down Bentancur. It's just the difference being that he really has to step out, and I think because he is now aggressively stepping, Bentancur is able just to take that little touch around him, and now Ajax go from in a little bit of trouble to a lot of bit of trouble.
Yeah, because as Bentancur gets away, I think some defenders step out to close him, but the right back, Cancelo, has made a really quick, not overlapping, but he's basically just got forward from right back, so he is on for that square ball from Bentancur.
No, from Ronaldo.
Ronaldo, excuse me,
Yeah, Bentancur into Ronaldo. Ronaldo with a quick little turn and plays it wide to Bentancur.
I nearly robbed Ronaldo of his role in the build-up to his own goal. Yes, correct. That's exactly what happened.
And it's worth clarifying that because, again, it's a kind of domino effect of now ball goes into Ronaldo, and it's Daley Blind, the left center back for Ajax, who now tries to step to Ronaldo and close him down.
Yeah.
But Ronaldo very quickly just one touch and then plays it wide, so 2 touches, and now Blind is in a state of I've got to react here, and he's transitioning back because now Juve are kind of breaking down that right-hand side, and it's a 2v1 on that right-hand side.
So this is the big breakdown, right? Is because Cancelo is away. I think Neres has basically not tracked him. I think he maybe switched off for a second, and then Cancelo accelerated in that second. Daley Blind is left with the choice. Do I go out and close down Cancelo because no one else is doing it? Or do I stick with Cristiano Ronaldo as he leaves me? And Daley Blind chooses, I'm going to step out to Cancelo.
Yes.
It looks like the wrong choice because then Cancelo crosses and Ronaldo heads it home.
Yeah.
But I think he made the right choice in the moment.
I think he absolutely did. Because I think if you look at the way everything was matched up, I think Daley Blind checks behind him, sees that there are multiple Ajax players there who could theoretically pick up Cristiano Ronaldo.
I think Schöne's coming back. I think De Jong is coming back.
Exactly.
I think it was possible that someone else could have picked up Cristiano Ronaldo.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, I think it's Bernardeschi has isolated Tagliafico. So now,
he's pulled out.
Basically, if Blind doesn't slide over, then João Cancelo can kind of dribble up, and either there's a 2-on-1 situation where that alone is a problem, and then otherwise João Cancelo is kind of uncontested to pick out his spot.
Yeah.
So Daley Blind is kind of caught in two situations that I think has to kind of commit himself to shutting down that potential cross.
And he does check, right? He checks that there are people to mark Ronaldo. It's not like he just goes charging off. He does, I think, a very responsible job here. But in the end, he doesn't get there. Which actually, this is the Daley Blind story as a defender. In the end, he doesn't get there quite fast enough. And Cancelo's able to whip in that cross for Ronaldo. Bend in that cross.
Bend whip, whatever you want to do.
Whip.
Yeah, whip. There you go. But it's also the case that Ronaldo, when Blind starts to not track him anymore, Ronaldo is at full speed trying to get into that box because he knows this ball is coming.
Yeah.
I think he also knows time is of the essence. And I think this is, again, a thing where if you're the attacker going 100% and you're the defender trying to react and see what's happening, but also track, you're just not going to be nearly as focused as that attacker trying to get on the end of the ball.
Yeah.
And that's why Frankie de Jong kind of puts an arm across Ronaldo very briefly because I think he's trying to slow him down. And then Schöne isn't able to make a play either on Ronaldo. That's why he's wide open in the box.
It is. Could De Jong's pretty quick, right? I think from someone with a bit of a burst of acceleration. And that's why I called Betancourt's thing that he did a kind of De Jong thing because he accelerated away. I'm surprised he didn't just go, speed for speed and try and keep up with Ronaldo. And instead he tried the kind of weak arm clothesline thing that really, it slowed down Ronaldo maybe a third of a second.
Not even that. Yeah. I think it's just the difference here is that even if Frankie de Jong is
he's not a good toll booth.
No. But if he's going 90% and 10% focused on that ball, he's not 100% focused on tracking Ronaldo. And I think it's not even close to that percentage. I think he's kind of 50-50. Oh, I could get Ronaldo. Oh, somebody else is here. I'll slow him down a little bit. But I don't think either Frankie de Jong nor Lasse Schöne really was 100% focused on staying with Ronaldo because, again, it's diffusion of responsibility.
And here's the icing on the Uruguayan celebratory cake. The reason that Delete, the right centre-back, much prized, possibly going to Barcelona, is not able to be the one that picks up Ronaldo as he makes that run into the penalty area is that Betancourt, after starting this move, has himself sprinted into the box, I think ready for the cross himself, but he's occupied Matthias de Ligt, right? And Daley Blind's all the way out the other side. So that's why when you see Ronaldo arrive, he is right in the middle of a giant gap between two centre-backs, right? Not that the header was easy, but he put himself in a great spot to have no pressure on him as he did it.
So I've got blame here.
I mean, relative, right?
I've got blame. I'm going to say Daley Blind, 5% at fault here. Maybe just could have done a little bit more.
Yeah.
And then I've got David Neres, 30%, because he definitely could have been closer to tracking down, but also I think
Cancelo, the original right-back run?
Yeah, and then I think if he had turned it on 100%, he makes a play on this. He's able to block this cross. You can see in the replay from the wider angle, he is not quite going at full speed, not quite at a jog either, but he's not kind of recognizing how threatening the situation is. And then I've got 35% Frankie de Jong because he touches Ronaldo, and 30% Lasse Schöne for kind of not doing anything at the run back.
It touches him not quite enough.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so it's 1-0 to Juve at half-time. And worth noting, there's a lot of Neres' fault. Cancelo doing really well.
Yeah, flip that around.
31 seconds later after kickoff in the second half, it's very much the other way around. It's a Cancelo mistake, and it's Neres who has a dribble and a cut and then bends it into the top corner.
And again, having not watched the entire game, but I do feel like there's maybe an element of Juve coming out for the start of the second half knowing that, Ajax, it is a huge blow to concede that late in the half.
Right before halftime.
You've got everything planned out. If you're the manager, you're thinking, okay, here's what we need to do to make sure we win this, and we can try to get an away or a sneaky goal at home, and then that's going to be huge problems. So to concede that late, now you're trying to adjust. And I do think that Juve maybe come out here and think we can go at them. They're going to be a little bit vulnerable. Maybe we get one more.
It's like put the foot on the neck kind of situation, because I think what you're alluding to is from kickoff. Ajax kickoff, I believe. Juve press high, right? Really high. They go after them.
Yep. Yeah, and Ajax work it all the way back. It goes to Onana, the goalkeeper. They move it around a little bit. And when it finally gets to Daley Blind in the left channel, he is forced to kick it long. It's not a very aggressive press at that point, but it's enough that he can't play out. He's got to go long. But if you watch from the wider angle again, there are 6 players from Juve committed forward. There are 4 in the back line that are kind of maybe 30 yards, 40 yards behind that. And there's a lot of gap.
I don't think the gap's that big. I think the problem is that they're so high. They're at the halfway line, which is really high for the back line.
They're not, though. They're like, if they're at the halfway line, then they're in the shot. They're like 5 or 10 yards deeper than midfield.
Oh, okay.
And so they've dropped off just a little bit. And I say that just to say that if the attack has gone and the defense is kind of sitting back, it still feels to me like there's just a solid 4 defenders who are kind of sitting there, and all the attackers are going, and it just feels like they're not quite as unified. It's not quite the like overall approach that you would want to see. Instead, there are gaps that could form or do form, especially if your right back can't control the ball.
That's the bigger problem, right? Is when Blind plays it down the line, Cancelo basically just tries to take a settling touch. It's weirdly not a bad touch if there was no one else around.
Exactly.
Right? But David Neres was coming over, not in a sneaky way, right? Cancelo must have known Neres was coming.
Or should have known, at least.
Basically, Cancelo takes a touch, brings it down, but a yard in front of him, so Neres takes the ball.
Yeah.
Because you would, wouldn't you?
And watching it again, you would. But it's also difficult to know what you would do if you were in João Cancelo's position. Because if Juve
As that ball's coming towards you.
Yeah. Because if Juve are trying to press, the idea is you press, you force Ajax just to kick it long. Juventus then settle the ball, you bring it down, you reestablish possession, you move it around, you frustrate Ajax, you stretch them out.
Yeah.
So then, if João Cancelo just kicks that ball back, right down the other the way it came.
Like if he launches it back in the channel.
I guarantee you he's getting yelled at because it's defeated the purpose of the press. Similarly, if he just passes it out of bounds, it's probably the safest play he could make and the smartest play he could make. But then he's just conceded a throw in, and it's kind of worked for Ajax. So I can understand why in that moment he might be thinking, I can't really kick it long. Should I play it out of bounds? Maybe I'll just try to settle it. But again, he's thinking multiple things is my guess. And so I think he's then not able to maybe as effectively control it or make the right decision.
I think what I would have done is jumped, caught the ball between my feet in midair, landed, bunny hopped over Neres, dribbled down the wing, and then shot from the angle and hit the top corner.
I would have just volleyed it out of the air one time and put it in the goal from 80 yards away. I mean, that's the obvious answer here. What I would say, though, is while I can somewhat understand why he then kind of controls it, but maybe shouldn't have controlled it, and then coughs up the ball, that isn't necessarily the end-all be-all of mistakes. The issue then is he kind of doubles down because I think he's so focused on bailing himself out because he doesn't want to be directly responsible for Juve conceding right away. So he then over-pursues David Neres. And what I mean by that...
Neres doesn't have to go past anyone else, right? He essentially beats Cancelo again before he scores.
Yeah, and I think because Cancelo is trying to make a play on the ball but isn't quite confident in doing so because they're near the penalty area and he doesn't want to concede a penalty.
Because Neres has progressed pretty fast, right? He's made this sort of he's running diagonally at goal, basically.
And so Cancelo tries to kind of make a play on the ball and also tries to get between David Neres and the goal. So then he overruns and then Neres just cuts back. And now not only has Cancelo overrun the ball, but he's kind of blocked off Daniele Rugani, who then can't make a play on the ball either. So the kind of doubling down of the mistake from Cancelo is a major factor here.
When you rewatch it, it's really obvious defensively. I think we agreed that what Cancelo should have done is maybe just maybe run past him, but just cut off the interior angle, force him slightly to Neres' left, Juve's right, into the path of Rugani, who was not marking anyone else, right? He was the free man, and they would have had this thing shut down.
Yeah.
But I think what you said about him trying to make up for his mistake, essentially, he tries to make the hero tackle instead of the smart, send you the other way kind of thing.
Yeah. Because even when the goal happens, it's he cuts David Neres cuts back and then hits the kind of instep, bends it around the Juve players into the side netting, and it's an excellent finish, don't get me wrong. But I say that to say he still has to bend it around defenders. There are people there is cover. So if Cancelo does just get goal side and forces David Neres maybe away from goal or towards the end line, now he has to cut back, and that sort of threat is neutralized or at least very much limited. But because he goes for the hero play, instead, it ends up with him being a little bit of a goat.
So I guess net zero for Cancelo for the day, right? Yeah. A 0 for the day, as they say in Donnie Darko.
I'd say so. Juve probably pleased with the result to get the away goal.
Away goal, going back to their stadium,
But we know that Real Madrid thought that their away result against Ajax would be good enough, and then things changed.
I think one real positive positive for Juve is they did this without Chiellini injured, without Emre Can injured, and I think a third player was also missing. I can't remember who it was.
Ronaldo came back from injury. He had just returned, so we're not sure if he was at 100% or 90% or 50%, but he was able to get a goal, so it's not that big of an issue. The other question we had is of Cancelo starting, whereas De Sciglio has been a starter for them, both in the Champions League and in the league, so we're not sure if that was maybe just a kind of tactical decision from Max Allegri. Either way, he's like happy about it and then maybe also sad about it.
But he's not losing.
He's not losing.
Does he deserve a Twillery shirt?
Max Allegri?
Yeah.
I thought about it. I have one that he could probably wear. It's just I don't know if it suits him, but are we going to get to that now?
We are. Today's show is sponsored by Twillery, makers of fine, fashionable shirts that I am proud to wear and proud that they sponsor the show. They come in 4 varieties: the performance non-iron, the safe cotton non-iron, the untuckable, which is, it's not too long so you can wear it out. That's my favorite kind of style. And the Friday shirts for business casual.
Now, let me ask you this. It's a weird question. Are you an undershirt person when you wear formal shirts, when you wear collared shirts?
Undershirt, just like a regular T-shirt type thing. Sometimes, basically, if it's cold, I'll wear a grey-ish T-shirt underneath. Or if I'm short on shirts, I'll wear one so as not to sweat in the good shirt.
Okay, that's kind of where I usually am, is I wear the undershirt because I don't want the stains, and I don't want it to look like I'm just like sweating through a nice shirt. I really enjoy Twillery. I usually go undershirt with Twillery. I do not. And I really like that.
Why so then? What's the
because
difference?
I feel like the fabric is very nice compared to maybe some of the other collared shirts I own.
It's breathable?
But I feel like it's much more breathable, and then the relaxed fabric I think is a bit more forgiving. But I wore it this weekend. I did not go the undershirt. It was hotter than expected, but I felt very cool the whole time.
Which shirt did you have? Can you remember the which of the 4 categories and which particular shirt it was?
I can, because we talked about this and I wrote it down. It's the untuckable charcoal gingham. I like that shirt quite a bit.
Lovely. Oh, I've seen you in that shirt. Yeah, it's a good look for you as well. It's very Taylor, if that makes sense.
What do you mean?
Tailor-made.
I pretty much wear black all the time.
No, the black and grey I think is a good look for you. Yeah,
I'm not big on color.
You do the lumberjackish check thing a lot as well, right? It goes with the beard.
I've tried to phase that one out because I think that was sort of in style like 3 years ago. My wife is very good about kind of gently telling me what still is fashionable and what no longer is. Again, she's the one who had to explain to me that wearing one color
is not an accent.
It's not an accent color. Yes.
I learned that lesson via you, via your wife.
I'm glad you can live vicariously through my incompetence.
Thank you. I can learn vicariously and not make that mistake.
There we go.
Yeah. Like Johan Cruyff, before I make that mistake, I do not make that mistake. Thanks to your wife. If we were to award maybe some Champions League players or coaches a Twillery shirt for what they did this Tuesday and Wednesday, whom would you award a shirt to, and which one would it be?
I'm going to give Luis Suarez the player performance check, because he's a player. He performed. He scored goals. He drew cards.
He did.
Definitely maybe made more of a challenge from Chris Smalling to get Chris Smalling that booking. I think that's what we expect from Luis Suarez. But then it's also white and light blue, so I feel like you could wear it for like Uruguay national team duty.
Uruguay meetups.
Yeah, I feel like it covers all the bases, and I think would look good on him.
Yep. Also non-iron. Who has time to iron?
I was going to go with like the Warrior for Arturo Vidal, because come on, he's a Warrior. I just can't picture him. It's a red and white check shirt. I just can't picture him in a dress shirt. I really can't. I know he has to wear them because you wear them before games, especially Champions League games, but it's still just strange to me.
He'll just tattoo a whole shirt.
Exactly. He just has a collar shirt tattooed on his body.
I am going to go and award Sergio Busquets the untuckable root plaid.
Okay.
Here's why. Because he was unmarkable and because he has those Barcelona roots. I've really gone for a play on words here rather than what the shirt represents.
Root plaid?
Yeah.
How is that unmarkable?
No, these are two different things.
Okay.
Untuckable, he was unmarkable, so I'm giving him the untuckable shirt. And he has those Catalan roots, right? Isn't Sergio Busquets Catalan and plays for Barcelona?
I would guess so.
I hope he is, now that I've said that.
I mean, otherwise you're in trouble.
So root plaid is what I'm giving him because he's got those roots.
All right. Well, you should feel bad about that. But if our listeners want to check out the offerings, they can go to Twillery.com.
Don't go there, though. Go to Twillery.com/TSS.
That's the next part I was going to say. You can go to Twillery.com, TWILLORY. Or they can go to Twillery.com/TSS and enter the promo code TSS at checkout to get $25 off your first shirt order.
There you go, $25 off your first shirt. And the other thing with Twillery, if you don't know, they do a sort of bundle deal. Basically, the more shirts you buy, you get a bigger discount, right? So you'll see a discount on one shirt with the TSS deal.
There you go. Get those bundles, get those discounts by going to Twillery.com/TSS. TSS,
Yep.
entering the promo code TSS at checkout for $25 off. Thank you very much to Twillory for sponsoring today's episode of the Total Soccer Show. Daryl Grove, one more thing to discuss before we depart for the day.
Sure is.
The Gold Cup draw, which I think we talked about what feels like 15 hours ago when we kind of started the process of recording this.
2.5 hours ago.
Yeah, there we go. Has happened. We can now comfortably say it's happened. Should we go through, talk about the Gold Cup draw a little bit?
It's not all UEFA today, right? CONCACAF Gold Cup draw happening this summer. 16 teams, 4 groups. You want to go through the whole thing?
Yeah.
All right. Well, the USA is going to be last then because they're in Group D.
There we go.
Group A is...
It's almost like that's why I wanted to go through the whole thing.
There we go. We're going to build to the finale, right? Group A is Mexico, Canada, Martinique, and Cuba.
So congratulations to Mexico and Canada for advancing out of that one.
We don't know that for
top 2
sure.
advance, and then basically it's Group A plays Group B.
Yeah.
Runner-up of one plays the winner of the other, and vice versa. Same thing for C and D. So because, as you said, USA in Group D, Mexico in Group A, it is the case that no matter results, if the USA and Mexico play each other, it will only be in the final.
Or the third place playoff game.
Or the third place.
If things go very badly.
If things go very badly.
So one thing I'm interested in this group, obviously watching Mexico under Tata Martino, his first tournament as Mexico manager, right? That's a big deal. But also Canada and Cuba are our CONCACAF Nations League opponents in, October and November. So at least we'll get to have a look at them against, if we think of Mexico as our equivalent, even though probably they're a little bit better than us right now, I think, it means we'll get to see Canada and Cuba up against those teams. Also, I'm suddenly interested in Canada.
100%.
Anthony Davies, it's a whole new generation. I feel like there might be a thing going on with Canada.
Alphonso Davies?
Yeah. Alphonso Davies, excuse me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you.
Is there another sports person called Anthony Davies?
Basketball player.
There we go. I think I've seen his name around.
The brow, my friend.
My apologies to Alphonso Davies.
But I think
Bayern Munich goal scorer, Alphonso Davies.
There we go.
Yeah.
But I take your point because I'm right there with you that it does feel like Canada. I am not Canadian, so I'm an outsider when I say this. It does feel like
I've heard you say the word about. I know you're not Canadian.
There's occasionally when I'm coaching, I make it sound like I'm Canadian, and I don't know why. Maybe because all Canadians are coaches.
Yeah.
In heart.
Oh, you're trying to sound friendly.
I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah. Yes, but I will say that this iteration of Canada, it feels like it is a sign of Canada starting to really embrace and getting better and better at soccer. That you look at the quality. You mentioned Alphonso Davies, but there's a player like I don't even know, Marcus Godinho is a 21-year-old. He plays for Heart of Midlothian. I just think that in the past it used to be 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 Canadians played abroad, and we kind of knew them because of that sort of reputation. And now you're starting to see more and more players go abroad.
Are you looking at their current roster?
I am indeed.
Is Jonathan Osorio on it? Did he finally start getting called up for the Canadian national team? There we go, Canada. Good job.
His most recent call-up. But yeah, I mean, you've got a goalkeeper from Red Star Belgrade. You've got players in Norway and Scandinavia. You've got Junior Hoylett at Cardiff City. I'm just saying, it's more depth than I think you would normally expect from a Canadian national team.
I've always wanted to get more familiar with the Canadian national team. I've been looking for an excuse. I think the CONCACAF Nations League will be it. Should we move on to Group B?
We can. I just want to say their 5 most recent strikers. Again, this is just looking at the roster, but it's Besiktas, Kilmarnock, Puebla, Ghent, and Albacete.
Their names are all the same as teams.
It's weird,
That's
right?
Amazing.
You wouldn't expect that. Yeah, I mean, like Kyle Larin, we know.
Larin, I forgot about Kyle Larin.
But Liam Miller is playing at Kilmarnock, 19-year-old forward. It's just, again, I don't know why I'm this excited about Canada, but I am.
You might be overrating the Scottish Premiership.
It's good enough for Timothy Weah. Why not? It's good enough for Timothy Weah. Why not?
Oh, he's too good for it. Anyway, on to Group B.
Yep.
Costa Rica, Haiti, Nicaragua, Bermuda, excuse me. I was doing the Cuba thing. Yeah, Tyler, talk us through Nicaragua's starting lineup.
Yeah, no problem. Obviously, it's going to be a solid team. I feel like I could do the nonsense thrown on the spot commentator for this one. I could say it's a tough group, it's a challenging group, but it's not the toughest group they could have gotten into. So we expect Costa Rica to make it through unscathed, which leaves Haiti, Nicaragua, and Bermuda battling for that second spot. We don't really think Bermuda are going to be that challenging. If you'd throw me Bermuda, I'd be really struggling. So it probably will come down to Haiti and Nicaragua for that second spot in Group B, and it's just who wants it more at that point, Daryl.
You're listening to what the Total Soccer Show could be if we just tried to wing it all the time.
Yes.
Instead, let's wing it on to Group C.
I'll say Derek Etienne Jr. playing for Haiti. I'm always excited to see Derek Etienne Jr. do things.
Of course, I forgot about that.
Yep.
One important thing actually for Group B, I think I do know, is Costa Rica will host a game. I think the first games is both of the games, a doubleheader, will be in Costa Rica. So the US isn't getting the whole tournament this time. That's also to Costa Rica's advantage.
If you had to bet, and I'm being serious here because I know you don't always like to gamble unless it's a sure thing. Which game is better attended in Costa Rica? Costa Rica, Nicaragua, or Haiti, Bermuda?
I mean, it's all at the same stadium. So I think it'll be one ticket.
Yeah.
I really do.
The question remains, and I think the answer is Costa Rica, Nicaragua.
Yeah, I think there'll be people very... I'm going to say more people will arrive at 8:30 than 6 o'clock. Let's put it that way. All right, on to Group C, where I believe the same thing is happening. Jamaica, so it's Honduras, Jamaica, El Salvador, Curacao. But Jamaica, Independence Park in Kingston, they're hosting the first doubleheader, and it'll actually be Jamaica-Honduras will be the game that's in Jamaica. So that's a huge advantage to Jamaica in terms of this group, right?
Absolutely, because those two do feel like the teams that are most likely to make it out of the group. El Salvador...
You don't need us to tell you that, right?
No, yeah, exactly. So like that, Jamaica get that one at home, and it's the first game. If you win that one, you sort of know that you control your destiny in terms of finishing top of Group C.
Yep. Honduras, always good to watch. Albert Elise, Romelu Kyoto, all that going on as well.
I did. I looked at
Espinosa still got it, I think.
Yeah. I looked at Jamaica's roster and was sort of like, okay, it's better than I thought. They've got a quality here. Ooh, that guy's good. That one's good. And then I looked at Honduras thinking they weren't that good until I remembered just how fast those Houston attackers are. That one's going to be fun to watch. I look forward to watching Jamaica-Honduras, which is not a thing I ever thought I would say.
And here's the thing, you should maybe keep an eye on that group because the US will be playing either the winner or the runner-up of that group if we finish winner or runner-up of Group D. If we finish below top two in Group D, it's all over.
And I'm going to say, like, not that I'm necessarily worried, but in Group D, one of the harder draws I think the U.S. could have gotten.
Tougher. It's at least tougher than usual. It's tougher than I think we normally get in the Gold Cup. It is.
I guess Guyana and St. Vincent are roughly equivalent, maybe?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know enough about either. But it's United States, it's Panama, it's Trinidad and Tobago, and it's Guyana. So we don't know much about Guyana. We can't talk about them. We know about Trinidad because it's the team that stopped us going to the 2018 World Cup.
It sure is. And it's a Trinidad team that we don't quite, while we know about them, we don't know what to expect from them because, like, similar to a lot of teams that did not qualify, and even some teams that did, Panama, we'll talk about them.
Post-World Cup rebuilding?
Exactly. Yeah. It's rebuilding. There are going to be new faces. It's not quite the Trinidad of, like, there's that one big name. Going way back, there's no Dwight York, there's no Kenwyn Jones. There's not maybe that one that you can look at and think, like, that's the problem striker, that's the problem we have to deal with.
Yeah.
Instead, there's players like, say, Leva Garcia, who's been in the scouting network for many years.
Was doing well in Germany. Now he's playing in Israel. We don't know where his career is quite going.
We don't. Yeah. But we know he's 21 and still young and good.
Really good winger. So he's worth sort of being worried about if you're one of those fullbacks. Jovan Jones, maybe the most high profile in some ways because he was with Seattle. Now he's in Germany with Darmstadt. Checks notes to make sure. Yeah, so you'll see him. Actually, I thought of him as a left back at Seattle, but he often plays on the wing for Trinidad, right? So you might see him farther forward. Could be Garcia and Jones on the wing.
There you go.
Yeah.
Could be lots of stuff.
And then if
all
Adrian
of it makes me nervous.
If Adrian Heath has his way, then he'll be watching Kevin Molino. For Trinidad.
And weirdly, I don't know why they decided to do this, but it will be the United States playing Trinidad in Trinidad at a flooded field. I don't know why you would ever do that. Maybe they just want to kind of get some retribution. I promise that's not actually happening.
It's not actually happening. It's 22nd of June in Cleveland. Is United States versus Trinidad at First Energy Stadium. I'm assuming that's Cleveland Browns.
That would make sense to me.
So that is that will be billed as a chance for revenge, right? It will be sort of a yardstick by which Berhalter and the new US team is measured. Even though it's not the same situation at all, we've got to take what we can get and see how we match up against Trinidad.
We do.
Let me give you the quick running order as well.
Please.
18th of June, the US will open against Guyana at Allianz Field in St. Paul. It's the new stadium. It looks like Allianz Arena. It's all lit up. It's all nice. Then 22nd of June, US v Trinidad in Cleveland. 26th, the US plays Panama at Sporting KC Stadium in Kansas City.
And our expectation is that that's a better Panama team than we played earlier in 2019, but maybe not a way better team than Panama. Like I think there'll be like some of the more familiar faces coming back into that squad, but maybe not necessarily
not the old guys.
Nah.
But I think it won't be as experimental.
I heard
as
Roman Torres is going to start in 5 different spots, so it shows you. But
they're rebuilding, right? It'll be like a new Panama, like probably no Perez and Tejada and those guys.
I think
watch Blas Perez actually start now.
I mean, it's possible. It's always possible with him. But I think one thing that you pointed out before we were recording is that the U.S. I do think it's the best way to start is by playing Guyana first because you're playing
slow build, right?
Certainly the weakest team, but you can like kind of ease into it, get a good result. Ideally, hopefully, Allianz Field, St. Paul, do your thing. But then after that, you're sort of letting Panama and Trinidad battle it out. And so if you're the U.S., you start this the group stage off with 3 points, and then maybe Panama Trinidad draw. Maybe say Trinidad lose to Panama. Now they've really got to go for it against the United States. That favors the U.S. So I think that draw. Like the in-group draw
Yep.
is good if the group draw itself is not good for the US. Or not as good.
I hope we haven't been disrespectful to Guyana. We just don't know much about them. I guess by the time the Gold Cup rolls around, we'll do our Guyana research and know what we're up against, right?
Their
I think
coach
you can count
played
on
for
us.
MK Dons in 2008. That's what I can tell you.
That's what you bring to the table?
Michael Johnson, I think his name is. He
right.
says without being necessarily too confident of that one.
All right, but we'll know more about Guyana when the time comes. And if it turns out that they're really good and we didn't know about it, then we apologise to the Guyana fans.
Yeah, and it also would be very surprised.
All right, one big note. I think I saw John Arnold reported this, that the thing where you used to be able to pick your 35-man provisional roster, then pick your 23, and then after the group stage, make up to 6 changes, which the US did in 2017. They made 3 changes in 2015. You can't do that anymore. You pick your 23, and you stick with your 23, which I've got to say, we haven't actually talked about this, but I'm fully in favour on it because I really dislike the chopping and changing. It made the tournament feel odd to me.
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
And it
You
also...
have Bradley and Nagbe play half a tournament. And you also, what Klinsmann did in 2015 is he called up Altidore thinking, he's not fully fit, but we can rotate after the group stage. He had a half-fit Josie Altidore struggle through the group stage and then switched him out for Alan Gordon.
Yeah.
It just seems like silly to be able to take that gamble.
No, exactly. And I think maybe the one argument in favor would be like, then you can cap tie some other players. You can get younger players who haven't yet gotten an opportunity.
Yeah.
Like you could get them a chance against, say, Guyana at a weaker level, and then maybe once you kind of reach those knockout rounds, you bring in a stronger team. That's historically what you do.
But the disrespect, of a player playing in the Gold Cup group stage and be like, okay, we got through the group stage, now there's the real stuff starts, the knockout stuff in the quarterfinal, and you find out you're going home and someone else is coming in. Awful.
But it's also the case that you can't do that in another tournament. You can't just do that in the World Cup, so you've kind of got to get used to the ins and outs of the rigors of a tournament.
Yeah.
But it's also the case, and I can't believe I'm about to defend the Nations League, but with the CONCACAF Nations League...
I've turned you to the good side.
I will say this.
I knew there was good in you. I could feel it.
There was more in Darth Vader than me. But I'll say that like it gives you opportunities to cap tie players there. So I would understand it more of like wanting to get more players cap tied if the Gold Cup were like our only official competition for a very long time.
Why are we worried about cap tying people all of a sudden?
Because I want Efrain Alvarez to play for the United States. That's why. Was that even a doubt? Of course that's why.
I don't think that'll be happening this summer.
I like getting more people more caps, Daryl.
Yeah.
I'd like to share.
Yeah, because of the Talisman sponsorship.
Of course.
Yeah, you would just hand out some caps. All right, so once again, Gold Cup is this June, as is the Women's World Cup and the Copa America and the African Cup of Nations.
Yeah.
And probably another tournament.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
But we'll do our best to cover what we can this
We'll
summer.
probably sleep at some point, right?
August.
Yeah, there we go. Perfect. Who needs sleep? We go a month without it. We'll be fine.
You ready to wrap this up?
I suppose so.
All right. So coming up the rest of the week, we will have a listener question special for you on Thursday. It will be pre-recorded, but only by about a few hours, right? Because Thursday, I'm back in for the chemo. It's another spell of chemo, so I'll be off the show until at least next Tuesday.
You're actually going to call it what it is this time and not refer to it as a mini vacation?
I mean, I don't do any work while it's happening, so yeah.
No, I think you don't do
it's
any.
Not as pleasant
the rest
as a
of your
vacation.
body is definitely working pretty hard.
No, that's true.
Yes.
That's true. But not my mouth. There we go.
Perfect.
And then Friday, you have, are we still calling it a mystery interview?
Yeah.
With a young AS Roma player. Figure it out if you can, or listen in on Friday.
I think we've given plenty of clues there that you could pretty much go there and figure it out.
Yeah,
but there you go.
And I'll be making an appearance in the middle of that show as well.
You
so
will.
I'll be around.
Forcing your way back
even though not around. Yeah. All right, Taylor Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Right back at you, buddy. And I suppose that's more like beneficial than me breaking into the chemo ward to be like, Daryl, record a mid-show ad break.
I'll do it.
You would. I just don't think it would go over too well with the doctors and or hospital security
That's
staff.
possibly true,
Yeah.
Listeners, thank you for listening, and we will talk to you again soon.